Trump and Israel take revenge after destroying part of the structure linked to the world's largest gas reserve in an offensive that hits the Iranian regime where it hurts the most.
It's hard to hit them. We hit them, we hit them, we hit the conversion facilities, the scientists, and the centrifuge factories. We pushed that threat away, but it's like removing cancer from your body. That doesn't mean there can't be metastases that come back, but it means one thing: if you don't remove it, you're going to die.
The information circulating indicates that Aslawiya, in the province of Buxay, has once again been placed at the center of military pressure. The region is home to the Pars Special Economic Energy Zone and facilities connected to the South Pars Field, the giant natural gas field shared with Qatar and considered a vital part of the Iranian economy. Trump reacted strongly, Israel maintained a hard line, and Netanyahu didn't mince words, saying that attacking Iran is like removing cancer from the body. The political message is stark. There is no negotiating with a regime that uses energy, missiles, the sea, and militias as instruments of pressure. While Iran holds funerals, displays crowds, and tries to show control, its strategic targets remain exposed. What did Trump hit? Why did South Pass hurt so much? I'll tell you all about that in a moment. If you like this kind of straightforward and no-nonsense content, consider subscribing because we have videos like this every day. The United States resumed attacks on Iran after new attacks on commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. The United States Central Command reported that its recent attacks targeted Iranian military structures, including means used by the Revolutionary Guard to pressure ships and try to control maritime routes. That's where Aslawiya becomes a sensitive point. The city in Bushehr province is close to the heart of Iran's energy sector. South Pars is not just a gas field, it's an economic pillar supporting the regime. From there come revenues, raw materials for petrochemical plants, energy for the domestic market, and the power to keep the state machinery running. Israel had already targeted structures linked to South Pars and the Asaluya hub, opening a harsher phase of the economic war against Tehran. In practice, the message was that the regime could not attack ships, bases, and Western allies without paying the price at home. Now, with new reports involving Bushehr and Asaluya, the pressure carries more weight. Iran tries to control the sea, but sees its energy source become a target. Netanyahu put this logic in brutal terms by comparing an attack on Iran to removing cancer. It wasn't framed as diplomatic language, it came as a wartime assessment. For him, the Iranian regime is not just a distant adversary, but a threat that needs to be removed before it advances on Israel, the United States, and their allies. This view directly aligns with Trump's stance, who has been treating the Iranian escalation as a provocation that demands a stronger response. Trump also escalated the rhetoric by saying that the attacks would be revenge for the Iranian offensive against ships. According to reports published in the international news, he stated that the United States would hit Iran twice as hard with each new aggression. The statement sums up the White House's logic. The Iranian regime cannot test American patience in Hormuz and expect only a diplomatic note. Iran responded by trying to show strength in the Gulf. Missile and drone attacks were directed at targets linked to the United States in countries such as Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. In Kuwait, air defenses intercepted ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones, while debris caused material damage and left one person injured in stable condition. The Iranian response showed reach, but it also revealed the risk of Tehran dragging other nations into a crisis that began with its own attempt to control the strait. The Revolutionary Guard started selling the idea that it controls Hormuz. The regime claims that maritime traffic has increased again and that any external interference will receive a crushing response. But navigation data and market reports show a different reality. Traffic remains unstable, insurers are marking it as higher risk, companies are pulling back, and ships are avoiding becoming targets. Iran calls this control. In practice, it's blackmail over a route that doesn't belong to the regime. Oman appears in the middle of this dispute because it has a strategic position and a reputation for neutrality. but Kati tries to talk to everyone without breaking with anyone. Iran needs Oman to try to give a diplomatic appearance to its control over Hormuz. The United States needs Oman to keep the passage open and prevent Tehran from turning international navigation into a way to charge for passage. It's a delicate diplomacy but full of tension. Meanwhile, the funeral of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei in Mashhad turned into a major piece of internal politics. The regime brought crowds to the streets, displayed mourning, used religious symbols, and deployed fighter jets to protect the airspace over the ceremony. The image that Tehran tries to project is one of unity, but the context shows something else. The country buries its former leader, while its bases, routes, bridges, military structures, and economic sites remain in the crosshairs. Netanyahu is also trying to expand his alliances. When talking about India, he made it clear that Israel is seeking new partners and new strategic relationships.
On the world stage, forming new alliances, developing relationships, new partnerships, for example, like I'm doing now with India. Okay. And that's why I believe it's absolutely necessary to be the Prime Minister of Israel. But it's not up to me to decide.
This matters because the war against Iran is not just military. Israel knows it needs to expand its support network to face a regime that operates with allies, militias, and regional pressure. India comes onto the board as a power interested in energy, maritime security, and technology. For Israel, strengthening ties with New Delhi means opening another front of influence against the Iranian axis. For Trump, a larger network of allies helps to isolate Tehran and reduce the regime's room for maneuver. The war also shows its human cost in Gaza. Mohammed al-Wahidi, who was connected to the Egyptian committee providing humanitarian aid, was killed in an Israeli attack in the Sabra neighborhood in Gaza City. Shortly before a public screening of the match between Egypt and Argentina for the World Cup.
For a few hours, hundreds of people in Gaza gathered to do something ordinary, watch the Egypt versus Argentina game in the World Cup. But the man who made this possible was killed in an Israeli airstrike before the match began. Mohammed al-Wahidi helped organize big screens where families in Gaza could gather to watch Egypt's World Cup games together.
Other people also died in the attack. Israel stated that the target was a Hamas militant and that al-Wahidi was not the intended target, but the case caused pain, outrage, and pressure on Netanyahu amid the larger war. This episode in Gaza does not change the central thesis of the offensive against Iran, but it increases the political pressure on Israel. It is used by opponents to weaken the Israeli narrative and divert attention from the main point. The Iranian regime continues to use regional conflicts as a shield, currency, and distraction. The difference is that Trump and Israel are now trying to prevent Tehran from choosing the battleground on its own.
Besides all that, another very important point is that you are definitely not Austria with F-35s. You're not what? You're not Austria with F-35s? It's important to note that you're not over there in Europe with the problems they face. But you are a nation of an ancient people who returned and rebuilt your state in your ancestral land, and you are still being threatened by Hamas and by major security challenges.
Iran wants to talk about revenge, funerals, and resistance. Washington talks about attacked ships. Israel talks about existential threat. The market talks about energy at risk. The Gulf nations talk about missiles crossing their skies. Oman talks about mediation. And South Pars, in the middle of it all, appears as the exposed nerve of the Iranian economy. The regime wanted to make Hormuz its golden weapon. Trump and Israel responded by targeting the structure that fuels this blackmail. And when the world's largest gas reserve becomes the center of the war, the dispute is no longer just about territory, but about who will have the power to control energy, navigation, and fear in the Middle East. Thank you very much for watching this video until the end. Support our project and contribute financially through the Pix key that appears on your screen. We are an independent channel focused on keeping you informed and telling you the truth. Your contribution helps us keep going.